The Curse of the Haunted Road. Have you ever heard of El Muerto Road? It's a very old and cursed road that runs through the woods outside of town. The legend goes that a man died in a car accident on that road many years ago, and his ghost now haunts the area. They say that if you drive down El Muerto Road at night, you'll experience strange occurrences, and may even see the ghostly figure of the man walking along the side of the road. Our story begins with a group of teenagers who decide to test the legend by driving down El Muerto Road at night. As they make their way down the winding road, they start to feel a sense of unease. The road is dark, and the trees cast eerie shadows that dance in the headlights. One of the teenagers, named Jake, tries to lighten the mood by cracking a joke. "Hey guys, do you think we'll actually see a ghost? I mean, it's just an old legend, right?" But his words fall flat, and the group remains tense. As they continue down the road, strange things start to happen. The car radio switches channels on its own, and the headlights flicker. They try to brush it off as a prank being played on them until they see the ghostly figure of the man walking along the side of the road. "Did you guys see that?" exclaims one of the girls, her voice trembling with fear. "That was him, the ghost!" The group starts to panic and decides to turn back. But as they try to make a U-turn, the car suddenly stalls, leaving them stranded in the middle of the haunted road. They try to start the car, but it won't budge. "What are we going to do?" cries another one of the girls, her voice quivering with fear. "We're stuck here in the middle of nowhere." As they sit in the car, waiting for help to arrive, they start to hear strange noises, footsteps, whispers, and the sound of something scratching at the car windows. They peer outside but see no one around. "What's going on?" asks Jake, his voice shaky. "Is this really happening?" The group starts to feel a sense of fear and dread as they realize they are trapped in a cursed place. They start to wonder if the legend is true and if they will ever make it out alive, but little did they know that the worst was yet to come. They start to experience even more bizarre occurrences. One of the girls, named Emily, looks out the car window and gasps. "Guys, look!" she points outside. "The trees! They're moving!" The other teenagers turn to look, and sure enough, the trees seem to be swaying and bending on their own, as if being blown by a strong wind. But there is no wind, and the air is still and silent. The group starts to feel even more uneasy, and they huddle together for comfort. "What's happening?" asks Jake, his voice shaking. "Is this real?" Suddenly, the car radio comes to life, and a voice starts to speak in a strange language. The teenagers look at each other in terror, not knowing what to do. They try to turn off the radio, but it won't respond. "That's it! I'm out of here!" screams one of the boys, named Mike. He opens the car door and starts to run down the road, leaving the others behind. "Wait, Mike! Come back!" cries Emily, but he doesn't listen. The others watch as he disappears into the darkness, leaving them alone. As they sit in the car, the teenagers start to hear footsteps outside. They peek through the windows, but they can't see anything. Suddenly, the car shakes violently, and they hear a loud banging on the roof. "What's going on?" screams another one of the girls, named Sarah. "We have to get out of here!" But when they try to start the car, it won't budge. They are stuck, and they don't know what to do. As they wait, they start to see strange apparitions outside, ghostly figures that seem to be watching them, with eyes that glow in the dark. They start to realize that this is no prank, but a real haunting. "We have to stay together," says Emily, her voice barely above a whisper. "We can't let the ghost get to us." Suddenly, they hear whispers all around them, but they can't see anyone. "Did you hear that?" asks Jake, his voice shaking. "Yeah, it sounded like someone was talking to us," says Emily, trying to keep calm. Then they hear footsteps approaching the car and the sound of something scratching the windows. They start to panic and huddle together, not knowing what to do. "Is there anyone out there?" shouts Sarah, but there is no answer. The car radio starts to play again, this time with a song from the 1950s. They realize that the radio is switching channels on its own, as if controlled by some invisible force. "We have to get out of here," says Mike, who has returned to the car after running away earlier. "We can't stay in this cursed place." But as they try to start the car again, it still won't budge. They are stuck, and they start to feel hopeless. As the night wears on, they start to feel more and more isolated. The darkness seems to surround them, and they can't see anything beyond the car windows. "I feel like something is watching us," says Emily, her voice barely above a whisper. "I don't like this feeling." Suddenly they hear a loud thud on the car roof, followed by a scratching sound. They look up and see a pair of glowing eyes staring at them from above. "Help! Somebody help us!" screams Sarah, her voice filled with terror. But there is no one around, and they are alone with the ghostly presence that seems to haunt them. They start to feel like they are losing their minds, and they don't know how much longer they can hold on. "We have to stay calm," says Jake, trying to be the voice of reason. "We can make it through this if we stick together." But as the sun begins to rise, they see something in the distance that catches their eye. It's an old cemetery, and they realize that it's where the man who died in the car accident is buried. "Maybe that's where the curse came from," says Mike, pointing at the cemetery. "Maybe the ghost is seeking revenge for his untimely death." The other teenagers nod, and they decide to investigate. As they walk towards the cemetery, they start to feel like they are being watched. "I don't like this," says Sarah, holding onto Mike's arm tightly. "I feel like we're being followed." But as they reach the cemetery, they see something that confirms their suspicions. There, in the center of the graveyard, is a grave with a headstone that reads, "Ramon Cortez, beloved husband and father, died too soon." "That must be him," says Emily, pointing at the headstone. "The man who died in the car accident." As they look around the cemetery, they notice that the other graves are all old and weathered. It seems like no one has been buried there in a long time. "This place gives me the creeps," says Jake, shivering in the morning chill. But they know that they have to find a way to break the curse, and they start to search for clues. They find an old book hidden behind a gravestone, and they realize that it contains instructions for a ritual to put a restless spirit to rest. "This might be the solution," says Mike, flipping through the pages. "We can perform this ritual and put the ghost to rest once and for all." The other teenagers nod, and they start to gather the materials they need for the ritual. They gather some candles, salt, and herbs, and they follow the instructions carefully. As they perform the ritual, they feel a sense of peace come over them. They realize that they have done something good for the restless spirit, and they hope that he has finally found peace. And as they finish the ritual, they see the ghostly figure of the man appear before them. But this time, he seems peaceful and content, as if he has finally found the rest he was seeking. "Thank you," he whispers, before disappearing into thin air. The teenagers look at each other, feeling a sense of relief wash over them. They know that they have finally broken the curse of El Muerto Road, and they can finally leave this haunted place behind. "We did it," says Sarah, smiling at the others. "We broke the curse." The other teenagers nod, and they start to make their way back to the car. As they leave the cemetery behind, they feel a sense of closure, as if they have finally put an old ghostly tale to rest. After discovering the truth about the ghost's history and the curse of El Muerto Road, the teenagers realized they needed to act fast to break the curse and escape the haunted place. They huddled together, trying to come up with a plan to break the curse and save themselves. One of the teenagers, a girl named Emily, remembered reading about a ritual that could help put a restless spirit to rest. She shared this with her friends, and they quickly got to work, gathering the necessary items and following the instructions. The ritual involved lighting candles and saying a prayer to help the ghost find peace. The teenagers were nervous, but they knew they had to try something to break the curse and escape the haunted road. They lit the candles and recited the prayer, hoping it would work. Suddenly, they saw the ghostly figure of the man appear before them. They were frightened, but they continued with the ritual, hoping it would work. The ghost seemed to be listening, and as they finished the prayer, they saw him start to fade away. The teenagers watched in amazement as the ghostly figure disappeared into the night, and they realized that they had successfully broken the curse of El Muerto Road. They cheered and hugged each other, relieved that they had made it out alive. As they made their way back to civilization, they talked about the experience and how they would never forget it. They knew they had been lucky to escape the curse, and they vowed never to take their lives for granted again. In the end, the teenagers learned a valuable lesson about the dangers of playing with the supernatural and the importance of respecting the dead. They realized that some things are better left alone, and that there are some mysteries that should remain unsolved. As they drove off into the distance, they knew that they had just lived through an unforgettable adventure that they would never forget.